Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're jumping straight into the life of one of the most influential and frankly debated figures of our time, Bill Gates. But we're going to do something a little different here. We are going to completely bypass that tired cliche of the genius dropout. Instead, we're going to unpack the complex systems, the intense personal history, and the very distinct phases of power that actually built the architect of our digital age. So, let's dive right into this. Who is the real Bill Gates? Is he the polished, benevolent, billionaire philanthropist we see in the news today, or is it, well, a lot more complicated than that? Because to truly understand the digital world we live in right now, we absolutely have to understand the mind that helped structure it.
Here is a fascinating detail from our source material that really sets the stage. Gates was born into a family with extremely high expectations, but he wasn't just some quiet genius effortlessly gliding toward success. He was argumentative. He pushed every single boundary. He actually clashed with his parents so badly that they sent him to therapy as a teenager. He's even noted later in life that he might be recognized as neurodivergent by today's standards. I absolutely love starting with this because it completely shatters that robotic billionaire myth, right? It humanizes him. It shows us a restless kid just trying to find a place where his hyper-fast mind could actually fit. We're breaking his transformation down into 4 major eras: the restless mind, mastering market power, monopoly and reinvention, and finally, a complicated legacy.
Gates' story maps perfectly onto 3 distinct forms of power. First, discovering intellectual power as a young boy. Second, mastering market power as a fierce entrepreneur. And third, wielding philanthropic power as an older man. Let's start with that very first step.
Part 1. The Restless Mind. Language for the Future. Picture the late 1960s. Gates is at Lakeside School in Seattle, which had something incredibly rare for that era, a computer terminal. I mean, most people hadn't even seen a computer in real life, but Gates was instantly captivated. And it wasn't just a casual hobby. It was a sheer, undeniable obsession. Alongside friends like Paul Allen, he was literally sneaking out in the middle of the night to write code, hunt down bugs, and devour operating manuals. By the time most kids his age were just starting college, Gates had already banked those famous 10,000 hours of practice. He wasn't just learning how a machine worked, he was fluently absorbing the language of the future. But, practice alone doesn't totally explain that legendary drive. Gates had a brilliant best friend named Ken Evans. They dreamed huge together. But tragically, Evans died in a mountaineering accident while they were still just teenagers. This profound grief acted as a massive catalyst for Gates. It instantly shifted his abstract ambition into a deep personal urgency. He realized that life could end in a flash, and talent alone guaranteed absolutely nothing. The future had to be built right then and there. Part 2. Mastering Market Power. Building an Empire.
Now, this brilliantly illustrates Gates' ultimate genius insight: leverage. Back in the early days of computing, pretty much everyone was obsessing over the hardware, the actual physical machines made by all these different companies. But Gates, he recognized that the real leverage point was the software. If personal computers were ever going to be on every single desk, they'd need a common language to connect them. Whoever controlled that software, well, they controlled the entire ecosystem.
The acceleration from here is just breakneck. It's 1973, he arrives at Harvard, but honestly, his real education is happening off campus. In 1975, he and Paul Allen see this new Altair 8800 computer on a magazine cover. In a completely audacious, almost reckless move, they contact the manufacturer and claim they already have a basic programming language ready for it. Spoiler alert, they hadn't even finished writing it. They raced to build it, the demo actually worked, and it led to one of the most consequential decisions in tech history. Gates drops out of Harvard and starts Microsoft.
So how did he capitalize on that software leverage? Fast forward to the early 1980s. IBM needs an operating system for their brand new PC, and Gates executes an absolute masterstroke. He doesn't even build it from scratch. Step 1, Microsoft acquires existing software and tweaks it into MS-DOS. Step 2, they license it to IBM. But Step 3 is the true genius. He retains the right to license that exact same software to other computer makers. As the IBM-compatible market absolutely exploded, Microsoft software spread everywhere. It became the backbone of the entire PC era. Literally, if you're watching this explainer on a PC right now, you are interacting with the direct result of that specific deal. As Windows and Office rose to total global dominance, that intense, argumentative teenager evolved into a hyper-competitive corporate leader. Inside Microsoft, Gates was famous for his brutal intensity. Former colleagues talk about these notoriously grueling meetings where he would just mercilessly shoot down proposals, calling them the stupidest thing I've ever heard. He wasn't aiming to be a soft, gentle leader. He was fiercely defending the unbelievable power position he had just built.
Part 3. Monopoly and Reinvention. A massive collision.
Of course, that kind of relentless market control eventually hit a massive wall, leading to the United States versus Microsoft antitrust case. Regulators accused the company of abusing its monopoly power to just crush competition, especially when it came to web browsers. During the case, Gates's deposition was highly publicized, and he came across as highly combative and evasive. It severely damaged his public image at the time, and it forced a real public reckoning. People started placing the visionary computer pioneer right alongside the ruthless empire builder.
But right in the middle of these massive external battles, his internal world was fundamentally shifting. In 1994, he married Melinda French. That partnership brought a deep moral seriousness and a much broader worldview to a man who had previously been entirely consumed by logic and systems. By the year 2000, Gates actually steps down as CEO of Microsoft. And he doesn't just retire to a golf course. He executes one of the most remarkable pivots we've ever seen, redirecting that fierce analytical energy away from software and straight towards civilization-scale problems, like infectious diseases and child mortality. Part 4. A Complicated Legacy. Elder Statesman of Tech.
To really wrap our heads around the scale of his second act, just think about this staggering number: $200 billion. That is the remaining fortune Gates has pledged to give away through the Gates Foundation over the coming decades. He's actively aiming to aggressively spend down his wealth rather than preserve it forever. And keep in mind, that's on top of the estimated $100 billion the foundation has already given away to global public health and development. He's completely transitioned his focus to existential issues like climate change and pandemic preparedness.
But look, any honest assessment of his legacy means holding two very different truths at exactly the same time. On one hand, you have the builder who helped put a PC on every desk, and the philanthropist who is actively saving lives around the globe. On the exact same token, you have the deeply flawed figure, a once feared monopolist, facing very valid modern debates about the sheer unchecked influence billionaire wealth has over our global priorities. Plus, recent years have brought heavy public scrutiny regarding his 2021 divorce and his past associations with Jeffrey Epstein, connections that Gates himself has publicly called a massive mistake. It's for sure not a simple hero narrative. It is a profound duality of massive global impact mixed with very real controversies.
So what does this all mean? It leaves us with this final provocative thought to ponder. When you strip away the billions, the antitrust lawsuits, the speeches on AI, and the massive charitable foundation, is he still just that same restless, hyper-intense kid from Seattle, looking for the next massive system to solve? The scare of his ambition might have shifted from lines of computer code to the actual survival of human civilization, but the intense mind driving it all, it might be exactly the same. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope this deep dive has completely reshaped how you view the architect of our digital age.